Let's have a look at the federal budget. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, and I thought before we start looking at all the different articles discussing the budget, we look at, well, the budget, at least at a glance, and then some of the more, figures they're putting out there to see what we think about the budget. What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments. If you're a fan of this budget, do you think Labor has been brave in what they put out there? Or do you think they're being reasonably conservative? Do you think it's going to be easier the next 3 years? Or what do you reckon? It's been a long time. It's been 9 years since Labor have put a budget forward. So now we get to see, is there any difference between the two parties? So this is from from their budget website. And this is, Budget at a glance. So I thought we'd go through this document first. So, building a better future. A responsible budget that delivers targeted cost of living relief and invests in Australia's future. Okay? Through a devastating pandemic, a succession of natural disasters, and extreme global volatility, Australians have shown they are resilient, practical and optimistic about our future. The challenges facing Australia are growing: intense and frequent flooding, a substantial global economic slowdown, high inflation, and rising interest rates. The nation is facing widespread skills shortages and falling real wages, and a budget burdened by $1 trillion of debt and persistent structural deficits. The government's plan is focused on responding to these challenges and building a better future for all Australians. This budget delivers on the government's commitments by providing responsible cost of living relief, building a stronger, more resilient and more modern economy, repairing the budget to pay for what's important. Now, this is interesting if they're going to build a more modern and resilient economy, because our economic complexity has been tracking down. We're exporting a lot of raw materials. But you've got to understand the cost of value adding to it here in Australia. Is it worth it? We've got to see if we can compete on a global scale. This budget confronts the challenges that have been ignored for too long and seizes the opportunities that won't wait any longer. This is a solid and sensible budget suited to the times we are in and the conditions we confront. This budget begins to build a better future with more opportunities for more people in more parts of Australia. Okay. So, cost of living relief. This budget delivers a 5-point plan for responsible and targeted cost of living relief. This includes cheaper childcare and cheaper medicines, an expanded paid parental leave scheme, more affordable housing, and getting wages moving again. Now, we've got to realise the entire childcare sector is completely regulated by the government. That adds costs to it, that adds restrictions. But there's a sense of community fear there, and people will just want more and more impositions put on that sector. That's one thing you have to realise. We're all subsidising that. One thing that Labor wants, they want women working. They don't want them taking care of their own kids. I just judging by what the Treasurer was saying, they want women working. They don't want them at home. They don't want them spending time with their children. And it's quite sad because now in Australia, it's pretty much not a choice. One of you is just working as the primary income earner. It's really tough to get ahead. The plan delivers, we've had a look at this, cost of living relief and an economic dividend without putting pressure on inflation. Well, we'll have to see. $4.7 billion over 4 years to deliver cheaper child care for 1.26 million families. And, you've got to think about this. I should be cheering with this because I'm a father of 6, but I don't use childcare. $531.6 million over 4 years to expand paid parental leave to 26 weeks by 2026. Now, the early time you spend with a child is the most critical. It really is. Now, I understand they've allowed this to be used by both parents. It can be divided up. You can chop and change, which I think is very smart too. So, I don't like the fact that government's spending money, but I think the long-term benefits of parental relationships with their kids are well known, well proven. And what's really sad is when Rachel was working, I think with a PM at Lorna Jane, and they both actually were pregnant. So we had two pregnant women working on a job. I'll let you run with your imagination where that went. But Rachel, it was a little different for us because we owned the business. She could come and sleep at the office whenever she wanted. She'd breastfeed in the office. She'd go back home. She'd be in the office more because I was there too. And, that's how it worked. The other woman had to go back to work really soon because her partner wouldn't support her at home, didn't have enough money, had to put a very young child in childcare, which is really, really sad because then you get abandonment issues. So, more affordable housing, including through the new National Housing Accord, which brings together government, investors, industry to boost supply and deliver up to 20,000 new affordable homes. Now, I'll want to look at that in greater detail. My concern is this is going to overheat the market. So you'll have new players coming into the housing sector, incentivized by the government, and it'll be either houses or apartments. So you'll be competing for the same trades, same builders, same pool of supply providers, now with superannuation funds that are using your money and international players coming in. It sounds good. This is the thing. The soundbite sounds good, but you got to just think be one step a little bit more cynical. I mean, don't get me wrong. In the construction industry, fantastic. Everyone's going to love it. You'll be making good money. But you just, we have to really think, is this going to make housing more affordable? Okay, that's the consideration. If it's to keep people in construction flat out, okay, great. But is it going to make housing more affordable? Let's just say I'm a bit skeptical. So, a $787.1 million over 4 years to reduce the general patient co-payment for treatments on the pharmaceutical benefit scheme from $42.50 to $30 per script. Supporting wage increases for our lowest paid workers and getting wages moving again. How are they going to do that? We'll have to look at that in greater detail. I mean, okay. Medicine cheaper. Cool if you need it. It's usually the people that are on government support that struggle the most with this stuff, honestly. You don't want someone on New Start struggling to pay for their script. Or maybe, they've followed the government guidelines, they've eaten the shit diet from the government their whole life, screwed up their whole health through no fault of their own, and then, welcome to Australia. A strong, more resilient and more modern economy. Okay. The budget delivers quality investments in the capacity of the Australian economy and the capabilities of the Australian people, delivering 480,000 fee-free TAFE places and 50 million TAFE technology fund to modernise TAFEs. So, does everyone remember when Whitlam made university education free? Didn't really make much difference to the type of people that were going to universities. I mean, if they want to try it, good luck. Good luck to them. I mean, if you're a student, take advantage of whatever you can. You'll be paying. I mean, here's the thing. As a young person, you've got to realize all of these things you're going to pay for. You'll be burdened with this. All the old, the old, it's probably Gen Xers now in Parliament and, a few boomers left behind, but it's mainly the Gen Xers. They're going to be dead before the debts get paid off. So don't worry. Take advantage of it. You're paying for it. Okay, so it's not free. It just means you'll pay for it later. 20,000 additional university places for disadvantaged Australians. Yeah, I mean, cool. Honestly, I think university, well, it depends on what you're studying there. If you're studying for a professional qualification where you need the degree, like I've got a degree on one of my walls here. I've got 2 degrees that I need. They're my gateway into the profession. To sit the interview to become an architect, to do the exams, I need to have those pieces of paper. That's why I need to get it. But if you're just going there for something that's generic, is university necessarily the best thing? I'd probably steer my kids to TAFE first and then university afterwards, but get a trade. $474.5 million over 2 years to support student well-being and improve classrooms. Okay, yeah. There's a push. There's two different approaches to classroom designs that I'm starting to see with different pedagogical structures in teaching. You're creating spaces designed in a particular way to, well, work with different groups of students in different teaching environments. So that's probably one, as an architect, a professional, I want to keep an eye on. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Supporting women's workforce participation and advancing gender equality. Yeah, well, I mean, it's labor. You're getting the woke stuff, guys. I'd argue we've already got laws in place that mean a lot of this is unnecessary, but there is the reason we have a wage gap is because it's actually an earnings gap, because we have freedom of choice. Isn't that what we want? Boost the work bonus income bank to give older Australians the option to work and keep more of their pension. Okay. Cool, I guess. Do we want people to get a pension when they're working? I mean, isn't the pension meant to be in place for when you don't have enough additional income sources? I guess you'd rather want them working, honestly. You would rather want them working because they'll just be spending the money anyway, to be honest. A Powering Australia plan to drive investment in cleaner, cheaper energy, including $20 billion of low-cost finance for rewiring the nation to upgrade our electricity infrastructure. Now, I've done a video looking at the real cost of electricity, and the problem here is the methodology that they use to measure, to claim that stuff is cheaper. They don't actually look at the cost of it properly. They don't look at the full cost of electricity. They look at a levelized cost. They don't take into account that here in Queensland, by switching to renewable for our base load, we need to build huge infrastructure in place to mitigate the variable nature of this power generation. So they need to build huge dams to store as a battery backup. Whereas now you've got coal. That's your battery backup. So there's all this infrastructure you have to build that has an embodied energy and a cost and a life cycle that's not taken into account. And one thing I learned today is the cost. Everyone knows solar panels, they're disposable. They don't last forever. They stop working over time or they get damaged. And the cost to recycle them, someone fact-checked me on this because I just heard it in a little short somewhere. It's like $30 a panel. That's insane. They won't recycle them. They won't. They're disposable. These are disposable energy production. That has, I think, a niche uses, and I don't blame people for doing it themselves. But as base load, it just seems foolish. It really does. Acting on climate change and a $1.8 billion investment in strong action to protect, restore, and manage our precious natural environment. The precious natural environment is doing pretty well here in Australia. All the national parks look fantastic. Up to $200 million per year on disaster prevention and resilience initiatives through the Disaster Ready Fund, as well as additional funding for flood-affected communities and extra staff to quickly get Australians the support they need. Yeah. Establishing a $15 billion national reconstruction fund to support a future made in Australia. Now, this, made in Australia. Here's the thing. Everyone is a globalist at the checkout. I don't care what you say. If push comes to shove and you are down on your luck and you've got two products, one that costs twice as much or 3 or 4 or 5 times as much, but it's made in Australia, or one that's imported and everything else is the same, and you can only afford one, what are you going to do? Are you ideologically going to just buy the Australian and do without other things? Or are you going to buy the imported product that isn't made in Australia, that's cheaper, same quality, and then use that other money maybe to I don't know, invest so you've got buffers for the future. And I know what I would argue. More than 120 billion of investment in transport infrastructure over the next 10 years. 2.4 billion in NBN Co to extend fiber access to 1.5 million more premises, and 1.2 billion for the better connectivity for regional and rural Australia plan. Now, my NBN it's all a complete bloody disaster, to be honest. They stopped private enterprise from rolling out fiber. It's just been a complete disaster. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all. Honestly, this whole scheme should have been left in the private sector's hands, and if the government wanted to ensure connectivity to certain areas, they could have paid for that infrastructure specifically. Protecting our farmers from pest and disease, such as foot and mouth disease, yeah, well, that's more a state issue, isn't it? Okay, repairing the budget to pay for what's important. So the this budget starts the hard task of budget repair, so that we can pay for things that Australians value the most. 28.5 billion in budget improvements, including spending reductions, reprioritisations, and strengthening the fairness and integrity of the tax system. Returning 99% of upgrades to tax receipts to the budget and offsetting nearly all policy decisions across this year and next. 235 million to commence the rollout of urgent care clinics, and 750 million set aside for the strengthening Medicare fund. New investment of 3 billion to deliver better aged care. Preparation for the referendum to enshrine a First Nations voice to Parliament and the Constitution. That's going to be fun. Here's the thing. We already have. First Nations you've already got a voice to Parliament. It's called your elected representatives. Now, you need to talk to the people in the House of Reps that are doing such a shit job in representing you that people feel like there's a need for another voice to Parliament. That's their job. Begins the task of restoring the NDIS and securing its future. We'll have to look into that to a bit of a greater extent. 1.7 billion over 6 years to support women's safety. Well, what about men's safety? Putting it out there. Intimate partner violence is bilateral. We all are aware of that. Well, I'm assuming that people are aware of that. I'm assuming that it's common knowledge. It probably isn't, to be honest. Normies probably don't think like that. You know? Deepening relationship with our Pacific family and across the region. Equipping defence to respond to global and regional security challenges. With funding for defence rising to more than 2% of GDP over the forward estimates. Is that because GDP is going down? Establishing a national anti-corruption commission to restore trust and integrity in government. And ensuring the integrity and security of Australia's borders. Okay, so that's the budget overview. So let's have a look at, well, this is what document? This is Building a Future, the budget, October 2022 to 23. And what we'll do is, let's have a look here. What do we want to see, guys? So this is a responsible budget that delivers targeted cost of living relief. Yep. We've got all the smiling people. A responsible budget. Yep. At a glance. Let's have a look here. So, well, there you go. Negative 181 billion. So they're just growing the debt. I mean, can anyone be surprised? Global energy prices, there you go. I mean, this is all just up to now. The domestic economic outlook. Let's have a look at this. So, global challenges and cost of living pressures are weighing on household budgets and the economy. Yeah, that's true. The Australian economy is facing headwinds from a deteriorating global economy, a global price shock, natural disasters, high inflation, and rising interest rates. While more Australians are in jobs, wages growth is not keeping pace with price rises, and higher interest rates are placing even more pressure on many households. The economy is expected to grow by a solid 3.25% over 22-23 before slowing to 1.2% in 23-24 as global challenges and cost of living pressures weigh on households and the economy. So they want to keep all the women working. That's why they're throwing money at childcare. Employment growth is expected to ease, but jobs will continue to be created, and the unemployment rate is expected to stay low by historic standards at 4.5% in June 2024. Okay, and here's the real GDP, here's the expectations. Now, one chart I want to bring up is GDP. Okay, there's showing GDP of the last few years, and there's the recession we had recently. But this chart is showing GDP growth per capita. And you can see the trend line there, and significant number of measurement periods since the 2008 GFC, we've actually been growing below trend. So we've still been growing per capita, but we're below trend. One could make the argument that our economy has been depressed since that period. How much is this population growth? That's through immigration, significant portion of it, pushing up our GDP figures. So we're still getting better, but per person we're getting better less. Supply constraints and high global energy prices are persisting and are being exacerbated by recent floods. Inflation is forecast to peak at 7.75% by the end of 2022, before easing gradually over the next 2 years. As wages grow more strongly and inflation moderates, we expect real wages to start growing again in 23-24. In response to these challenges, the government is providing responsible cost of living relief and investing in a stronger, more resilient economy so we can better withstand future shocks and build a better future. Okay. Another picture. There you go. See, can't even have plastic bags in Australia anymore. That's a no-no. Okay. So responsible cost of living relief. Cheaper childcare. Making childcare more affordable for 1.26 million families. The government is investing $4.7 billion over 4 years from 22 to 23 to make early childhood education and care more affordable to Australian families. Now, here's the thing. People rave about early childhood education, but the actual benefit of it is questionable. Honestly, look at all the Scandinavian countries that everyone loves to talk about. They don't start formal education until 7. So we want to educate. Kids need to be able to play. They need to be able to play. Just keep that in mind. So the government's reforms will mean 96% of families with children in care are better off and no family is worse off. From July 23, childcare subsidy rates will increase up to 90% for eligible families earning less than 5. What? You're shitting me here. So if you're earning less than $530,000 a year, you can still get childcare subsidies? Bullshit. Are you kidding me? Why? No. Okay? No. 530 grand a year, you should be able to hire your own bloody nanny. You probably do. Who the hell earning $500,000 a year is taking advantage of childcare subsidies? I'm sure they are. I mean, I don't blame you if you do. I can't believe this. This is insane. The Labor budget, guys. I guess it's for all those union leaders, hey? Shit, $500,000 a year for a family. So it's just, husband and wife each earning $250,000, academics, professionals. Shit, you don't need childcare subsidy. Come on. This is bullshit. I would rather than the government get their hands out of this subsidy crap. I would rather allow businesses to package it up and not have it as a fringe benefit. $530,000. What bullshit is that? Oh, come on. Families will continue to receive existing higher subsidy rates of up to 95% for any additional children in care aged 5 and under. The significant cost of early childhood education and care can prevent parents, particularly women, from working as much as they want. It's estimated, when you have kids, here's a controversial opinion I'm going to put out there. When you have kids, you've got to raise them, okay? You've got to raise them. That's just how life is. And I can say that as a father of 6. Come on. It's estimated these reforms will increase the hours worked by women with young children up to 1.4 million hours per week. Yes, and how many children will it result in abandonment issues? Because that happens. This is the equivalent of an extra 37,000 full-time workers. So this is why unemployment's going to go up. The reforms will also support children's learning and development and their readiness for school. We're educating them before school. Readiness for school. You just read to your kids at home. Okay, you play games with them. Come on. The ACCC will examine the impact of these changes on out-of-pocket fees and investigate the drivers of rising early childhood education and care costs. This will complement a comprehensive Productivity Commission review into the early childhood education and care sector to commence in 2023 and will consider a universal 90% subsidy. Universal 90% subsidy. So, Geeta and Matt have a combined income, this is the story here, of 120 grand. Their 2-year-old attends centre-based daycare 3 days a week, costing $4,700 a year in out-of-pocket early childhood education and care fees. From July 23, Geeta and Matt will receive a childcare subsidy of 82%, an increase from the current 71%. This will save them $1,780 out-of-pocket fees from 23 to 24. Okay, yep. Cool, I guess. Expanding paid parental leave. So, supporting families' participation and gender equality. The government is investing $531.6 million over 4 years from 22-23 to expand the paid parental leave scheme and provide greater support to families. In 26, families will be able to access 26 weeks of paid parental leave. 6 months. So that means for 6 months you can bond and breastfeed your child. If everyone was doing that, you'd up the IQ of the population. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean to shame anyone if they can't take advantage of that. Breast is best. Formula has saved many lives. It's also when people weren't mixing it, I think, with clean water, it's caused many issues. But still, this is one way. If you combine this with breastfeeding, you'll up the IQ of your population. Maybe we're not allowed to say things like that, are we? So, this expansion is the biggest reform to the scheme since it was introduced in 2011. It will enhance economic security, improve gender equality, and increase participation and productivity. It will support parents to spend more time with their children and share caring responsibilities more equally. Where's the discussion about IQ increase? Wait, of course, yeah, that's the politically incorrect, Florian. You can't think like that. The modernized scheme will include reserved use it or lose it weeks for each parent to encourage both parents to take parental leave. Either parent will be able to claim paid parental leave first, and both parents can receive the payment at the same time as any employer-funded... Okay, what? Employer-funded parental leave. So you can get the government one and the employer one? Both at once? Double dipping? The reforms also improve flexibility, with parents able to take leave in blocks as small as a day at a time, with periods of work in between. Okay? Yeah. Cool. I like that flexibility. The Women's Economic Equality Task Force will examine the optimal model for 26 weeks of paid parental leave, including the number of weeks that parents can access at the same time and the mix of use it or lose it weeks. This will ensure it delivers the best outcomes for families and encourages more shared parenting. I mean, you're always going to have reality hits. Once you have kids, gender roles, from the past suddenly start to rematerialize. And a lot of the bullshit that the media portrays, you realize is bullshit. Okay, reality starts to come back into play then. And that's you're meant to be a couple, a team, working together. That's not a bad thing. Next year, Grace and Chris make plans to have a child. They want to share work and care responsibilities equally. Oh, because they're so woke. Rachel has the deal where at night times she will not wake me up. She does not expect me to get up. I don't have to deal with the kids during the night if they need nappy changes or feeds. That's not me. I get to sleep through, but I've got to make sure we keep getting money. That's kind of the divide. She's done it. So if the kids are getting really, really bad at night time and I wake up, it's been a bad night. And sometimes that's Edward with his getting a coop or a cough and getting sick, the poor guy. So, under the expanded scheme, they'll be able to access paid parental leave for a total of 22 weeks from July 2024 and can use it flexibly. When the baby arrives, Grace will take leave to recover from the birth and breastfeed. Once she's ready to return to work, Grace will take leave 2 days a week and Chris will take leave 3 days a week, with each accessing a total of 11 weeks of leave. Okay, there you go. Shouldn't she? Oh, yeah. So more affordable housing. Let's have a look at this one, guys. Working together to fix the housing crisis. We're all aware there is a housing crisis. Australia is facing acute housing pressures, and too many Australians do not have access to affordable housing. At the same time, Australia has a low level of institutional housing investment and the world's third largest pool of capital in our superannuation system, which is hungry for investments that will deliver stable returns over the long term. This is my concern with this. We're just going to move to a model where you will own nothing and be happy. We'll be a renting country. We'll be like Europe, where there'll be institutional housing, not as in mental institutions, but institutional investors. You'll be competing with your own super funds in the housing market. And you may be thinking, oh, Florian, if they're only build to rent, that's not going to affect me as I'm, buying my house. Well, yes, it will. You'll be competing for the same labourers, the same tradies. It will inflate the housing costs. And then that will move through it'll put pressure on other housing sectors, demand for established housing. They're going to overheat the market. You just got to be aware of that. They've got to. There is housing supply is the issue, but you've also got to address everything from the council level up. Okay, and it's the not in my backyard crowd. They're the biggest problem. Okay, it's the family earning $500,000 a year, getting their childcare subsidy rebates, that are going to complain about the POVs living next door, when the POVs are probably nicer people. A target of 1 million new homes under a national housing accord. The government is bringing states, territories, the Australian local LGAs, investors and representatives from the construction sector together under a new national housing accord. The accord sets an aspirational target of 1 million new well-located homes to be delivered over 5 years from 2024, as capacity constraints are expected to ease. Okay, this is how they're dealing. They're thinking the market will slow down, and then boom, we'll hit it again with, 200,000 houses a year. Weren't they bringing a significant number of new migrants to Australia again? Is that going to be mentioned in the budget with regards to population growth? That's going to put demand as well. So all stakeholders will work together to achieve this target to address the supply gap of new houses as our population continues to grow. Under the accord, the government will provide $350 million over 5 years with ongoing availability payments over the longer term to deliver an additional 10,000 affordable dwellings. States and territories will also support up to an additional 10,000 affordable homes, increasing the dwellings that can be delivered under the accord to 20,000. That 20,000 isn't that many. The combination of more secure pipeline of supply and government support through innovative financing will facilitate cost-effective superannuation institutional investments in affordable housing. Okay, We'll be a nation of renters, guys. Australia's just changing. We're changing. Housing is no longer going to be the mechanism to equalise the class differences. Planning for the future of Australia's housing. Beyond the Accord, the government will develop a national housing and homelessness plan to set out other actions and longer-term reforms. The plan will be developed in close consultation with the states and territories and other stakeholders. To provide independent advice on housing, the government will set up a National Housing Supply and Affordability Council. Another body. Awesome. Investing in social and affordable housing. The Accord builds on the government's $10 billion investment to establish the Housing Australia Future Fund. Returns from the fund will be used to build 30,000 new social and affordable dwellings over 5 years, and early disbursements of $330 million will be used to address acute housing needs. The government is expanding the remit of the National Housing Infrastructure Facility to allow it more flexibility, using $575 million of existing funds. It will still help unlock a projected 5,500 new dwellings, drawing in institutional capacity and accelerating housing supply. But this growth that they're proposing, this million houses, it isn't that more than we would build over that 5-year period. So rather than market demand, is it going to be government coming in there and meddling with it? That always works out well, doesn't it? So helping more Australians realise their dreams, the Regional First Home Buyers Guarantee, yeah, we've heard about that, 10,000 people supporting veterans to purchase a home. The government is committing $46.2 million to expand the Defence Home Ownership Assistance Scheme. Help to Buy, eligible home buyers will have access to an equity contribution to buy a home with a smaller deposit and a smaller mortgage. So you remember, this is what we all voted for, guys. This is what 30% of people voted for, rather than allowing individuals to access a portion of their super, using that to buy a home, and then when they sell a home, paying that portion back into the super. This is what you voted for. Institutional investment in housing, not individual ownership. That's it. I mean, it's Labor. They're for the big institutions, guys. What's the difference between Labor and Liberal? Can someone tell me? Well, Liberal was still pushing for the little guy to own their own house. That's the difference. Using your super, your money that you earned to buy your house. Helping older Australians who want to downsize. The government is extending the exemption of home sales proceeds from pension asset testing by 12 months. Okay, there we go. So if you're old and you sell, you still get the pension. Awesome. So cutting the costs of medicines. I'd rather cut the cause of medicines and address the Australian dietary guidelines, but, that's going to happen probably 10 years after I'm gone, another 50 years' time. Out of coffee. Maybe I should cut here and go make another coffee. Oh, maybe a bit more. So maximize the cost of PBS general scripts to fall for the first time in 75 years. The co-payment will be lowered to $30. Now, I'll be brutally honest. I've got absolutely no experience with this in my entire life. I think my father-in-law buys medicine using this thing. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm privileged in that regards. I think I bought some, what was it? That Nexium stuff. Antacid things. I used to take that. And then I changed my diet to carnivore and haven't needed anything. So, and I don't think I got any discounts or deals for that. I just bought it all in bulk. They sold me 6 months supply of the stuff. I said, I went and talked to the chemist or the doctor. I said, just give me scripts for 6 months. Why should I have to come back every 3 months to get another appointment and pay for it when you can just write it all out in once? Nothing's going to change. So the doctor gave me, good on him, gave me a whole lot of scripts, and I just bought 6 months of the stuff. Saved me all the trips to the doctor, all the GP. I guess they want to get the what was it? The Medicare money or whatever the doctors get. Anyway, so, okay, making medicine cheaper for people, I can't. This is one thing I think most Australians would advocate for, honestly. So the most cost-effective medicines, The government is providing an additional $1.4 billion for new and amending listings to the PBS and other medicine programs. This will allow for greater access to affordable and life-saving essential medicines and include treatment for various types of cancer and growth hormone deficiencies in children. Okay, is a general non-concessional patient with diabetes who is taking PBS medicinal Cidigal, I don't know what that is, and metformin. Metformin? Do they still use metformin? I thought they don't use that anymore anyway. She needs 2 tablets a day, which means 13 scripts per year. She's paying $552 for a year's worth of her medicine. That's not that expensive. She'll pay $390 in 2023. Okay. So, I mean, I would rather advocate we try and get people off medicine, but it's not going to happen. Okay, getting wages moving again. Let's see what they're talking about here. Improving pay and reducing income inequalities. Well, we voted for Labour. We've got to pretend like the woke shit is real now, guys. Okay? That's the thing. It's inequality. It's not incompetence. Low-paid workers experience the worst impact of inflation and have the least capacity to draw on savings. Yeah, that's right. That's why one of the government's first acts was to support wage increases for Australia's lowest-paid workers. I'd rather you increase the tax-free level than force businesses to pay people more, because that drives up inflation. Increasing the tax-free threshold, well, that won't, will it? But no, we can't have that. They want their taxes. They want to be able to take your money and get, because now they're getting rid of the $1,500 middle and low income tax discount or whatever they had. They're getting rid of that. So all the people who are getting that advantage, they're going to lose anything they get here. So we should add up a few of these things. They're not getting any advantage from this because that's $500. They're saving $160 here, so there's still another $1,200. And the guy with the childcare, what were they saving? They're still screwed. Oh no, they're not. It's the childcare ones. $1,700. Okay, so the saving they're getting here, they're losing pretty much in that $1,500 tax-free, lower middle income benefit. So it's all smoke and mirrors, guys. That's all it is. It's all just feel-good bullshit. You can tell I'm cynical, can't you? Anyway. The Fair Work Commission delivered a minimum pay rise of $40 per week for full-time workers, benefiting 2.7 million workers. Yep. The government has also supported a pay rise for aged care workers and will provide funding to support any resulting increase to award wages decided by the Commission. So, improving pay and sharing prosperity. In this budget, the government is taking further steps to boost wages. You can boost wages of everyone instantly if you increase the tax-free threshold. That's what the government can do. No burden on business. Just increase the tax-free threshold. At least they're sticking with the stage 3 tax cuts. And I know people will bitch and moan about those, but if you earn 50 grand, you're getting a benefit. That's not a billionaire. The government is supporting increased pay for women in low-paid sectors, including through the introduction of statutory equal remuneration principles, which reduce barriers to pay equality claims. Oh, come on. We already have anti-discrimination laws in place. This is just whatever. Kind of a waste of time, honestly. We'll also revitalize the workplace relations system to boost wages by simplifying and expanding access to the enterprise bargaining process. These changes will help employers and employees come together to reach agreements on better pay and conditions, especially in low-paid occupations. The problem with any of this, it incentivizes a reduction of workforce, automation, offshoring. Just keep that in mind. So, security and well-paid jobs. So, making jobs more secure. How can the government do that? The government is tackling insecure work to allow more workers to plan their future and get ahead by making jobs security an explicit objective of the Fair Work Act 2009 and limiting the use of fixed-term contracts for ongoing roles. Okay. I mean, this is the problem. If it could destroy the gig economy, and some people love the freedom and flexibility that gives them. Reinvigorating bargaining and boosting wages. Workplace bargaining will be reinvigorated through targeted and balanced changes to the workplace relations system. This will support more businesses to reach agreements with their employees that improve pay outcomes, especially in low-paid occupations. The single enterprise agreement making process will simplify, and the better off overall test will be changed to ensure it is simple, flexible, and fair. But isn't it already? The government will also provide additional support to help employers and employees reach agreements and resolve disputes, with improved access to arbitration for intractable disputes. This will be complemented by enhanced access to multi-employer bargaining, together with increased bargaining support for small businesses and investments in the Fair Work Commission's expertise. More businesses will be supported in reaching agreements. Oh, boy. All I see with this is I'm happy. Well, what happens if I hire contractors? I mean, I'm hiring, draft people and other trades and other professions, so it's not that big a deal. But this just screams of more pain for small business. That's what this is telling me. They're going to make it more of a pain in the ass. Big businesses will love this shit. They'll be able to afford to hire HR people that'll eat this up. It'll give them purpose. It'll mean all the years they spent just being a paper pusher will mean something. Improved workplace conditions and protections. The government will strengthen employment conditions and protections. That will disincentivize people hiring. Here's the thing. My argument is you want to make it easier to hire and fire, so you give people more opportunities. Because anything you put in place, it means people they'll resist hiring people, or they'll offshore it. They'll do what they can to offshore. This is why the whole Made in Australia argument, it seems ludicrous. You're putting all this in place, then you want to encourage businesses to establish here, and you're going to have variable renewable energy that's going to be more expensive and less reliable. How's that all going to work? Well, we're going to see. Okay, a more robust framework for flexible work, an enhanced anti-discrimination framework. This will reduce harm to workers and the economy. The small claims process will also be used to support employees to recover unpaid wages more easily. To ensure all workers will be covered by the same regulatory framework, regardless of industry, the Registered Organisations Commission and the Australian Building and Construction Commission will be abolished, and their functions will be picked up by the Fair Work Commission and the Fair Work Ombudsman. So the ABCC is gone. And what do we have here? We've got a wind panel, probably manufactured in Germany and transported over to Australia. So, a stronger, more resilient, and more modern economy, everyone. So, better access to training and skills. Giving Australians the skills they need to secure higher wage jobs. Fee-free TAFE. 480,000 fee-free TAFE and community-based vocational education places over 4 years. $1 billion agreement with the states and territories to provide 180,000 places in 2023. I mean, you want people educated. This is the thing. This agreement will prioritise training for students that traditionally face barriers to work and studies. Okay, so they're going to discriminate. Of course, it's Labor. They're going to discriminate. So, women facing economic equality issues and target industries with severe skill shortages. Also deliver a $50 million TAFE technology fund to modernise TAFEs, enabling students to take advantage of up-to-date IT facilities, workshops and laboratories. Beyond this, a new 5-year national skills agreement will commence in 2024 to secure the long-term future of vocational education and training, underpinned by national skills and training reform. So planning for the workforce of the future. The government will establish the Jobs and Skills Australia to strengthen the nation's workforce planning. They really want to establish these committees and organisations to plan our future. They're not free market people, are they? Have we heard anything mentioned here of a small business? The only thing is, workplace relations, more pain they're putting on you. I mean, they're not the party of small business. They're not the party of individual home ownership. They're the party of institutional home ownership and renting. This is what you voted for, guys. Better identify current and future skills and training needs by bringing together employers, employees, government, and training providers. They're trying to do what the market's meant to do. The market has price signals that indicates where you need more opportunities. Oh well. They think they can do better than the market. Supporting students, improving the well-being and greater access to education, investing in our schools. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to bring up what's this one? The Building Education Revolution, everyone. Okay, just look here since 2000, the achievement trends in Australia in, what is it? Reading, mathematics, and science. There you go. Yeah, I don't need to really say any more. That chart explains for itself. So this has been an issue since, for 20 years. It's been going down. So you can't just blame the previous government. You've got to blame the previous one before that. So, honestly, my argument with education here in Australia, you need to reduce the curriculum. We need to simplify the curriculum. They're adding too much to the education curriculum. And it means you've got no time to be rigorous on things. The past years have been especially difficult for Australian kids. This is why the government is investing $474.5 million over 2 years to help students bounce back. All schools will benefit from the $203.7 million student well-being boost, with the average school receiving $20,000 towards improving student mental health and well-being, $20,000 per student. A new voluntary mental health check tool will assist schools to identify students who are struggling so they can help when they need it. I mean, I've heard some stories about as an architect designing for school projects, some of the things you have to consider for health and safety and risk mitigation, like children harming themselves. It's scary. It really is. It's stuff you wouldn't. Maybe I was just naive as a child, but I didn't think that was something that was this much an issue back then. Have we changed that much since the 80s? Well, probably. Maybe all the media, all the fear. That's why we have a whole generation that are gluing themselves onto car showrooms and shitting in buckets, thinking the world's going to end. So the schools upgrade fund will provide $270.8 million to support improvements to ventilation and air quality, as well as larger refurbishments to public schools. The government will also deliver on commitments to help tackle the teacher shortage, investing in bursaries worth up to $40,000 each and expanding the High Achiever Teachers program to attract our best to the profession. It's a tough profession. Really is. More university places. Underrepresented groups will be supported to attend university and study in areas of in-demand skills through a one-off boost of 20,000 additional university places. These will be targeted at students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, regional and remote areas, first-in family to attend university, First Nation students and students with disabilities. Startup Year will encourage students to innovate by supporting up to 2,000 eligible students each year to participate in a university-based accelerator program. Higher Education Accord, Universities Accord to drive long-term reform in Australia's higher education system. The Accord will draw on the advice of university staffs, unions, business. Okay, well, here's some advice I'll give you. Cut all the support staff at universities. Okay? That's one thing. Skilled migration. A migration system that strengthens the workforce and builds community. The government is committed to ensuring Australia has the right skills to support our economy and drive future growth. This includes responsibly using migration to ease current critical skills shortages and labour shortages, which have been impacting the everyday lives of Australians. The permanent migration program will be expanded to 195,000 in 22-23. This is an increase of 35,000. So they're increasing migration by 35,000 in 22-23, and they're not starting their new super-duper housing affordability scheme until 24, when they'll only build 20,000 additional houses. Something doesn't quite add up here, guys. What do you think this is going to do to the rental crisis? I mean, when no one can be surprised. This is going to have impact on rents. And I mean, Australia, we want to grow. You want to bring migrants here. That's not a bad thing, but you've got to understand the impacts of it. To address skills shortages more quickly, an additional funding of $42.2 million will be provided to accelerate visa processing, reduce the visa backlog, and raise awareness of opportunities for highly skilled migrants in Australia's permanent migration program. Student and secondary training visa holders will have their work restrictions relaxed until the 30th of June 23. This will allow them to work additional hours in any sector, helping to address workforce shortages. By creating greater trading opportunities for Pacific workers within the aged care sector, we will ease skill shortages. Okay, I mean, they're doing the jobs that Aussies don't want to do, guys. This is where the university training will lead you. You know, you have to do a university degree to work in aged care. So what else do we have here? The Jobs and Skills Summit. Bringing Australians together to address the challenges and opportunities facing the labour market and the economy. Sure, it was a success. One key summit outcome was better incentives for all Australians who want to work. Okay, I mean, you already get the pension. Advancing gender equality. I'm getting a bit tired here, guys. I've got a fair bit more to go. You know what? I'm going to get a coffee. I've been going for 40 minutes. I'm going to get a coffee and then come back and I'll splice it together with editing magic. Thanks to editing magic, I'm back with my coffee. So let's keep going through this budget. So the Jobs and Skills Summit we've gone through. We'll keep going here. Advancing gender equality. The national leadership to drive change. To advance gender equality, the government will develop a national strategy to achieve gender equality. The strategy will be guided by the new independent Women's Economic Equality Task Force and informed by broad consultation. Oh, well, this is what you voted for. I mean, frankly, I would argue this is entirely a waste of money and resources. Tackling the gender pay gap. Okay, it's an earnings gap because people make different choices. There's already anti-discrimination laws in place. Is this another thing that I'm assuming that people understand, but normies don't? I guess they don't, because, I mean, something like this, people are taking seriously. Politicians believe this. This is what you voted for with Labour, guys. This is what you voted for the Greens. I guess the majority of people believe this. It doesn't mean it's right. That's the problem with democracy. So, leading a national push to help close the gender pay gap. Government will require large companies to publicly report their gender pay gap to the Workplace Gender Equality Agency to improve transparency and encourage change. More reporting, more bureaucracy, free market my ass. This is, powering Australia, building a future with cleaner and cheaper energy. I'm going to have to link to the video I did previously looking at the actual full cost of electricity. It's not cheaper. It won't be. It's not renewable. It's disposable. Okay? All of this infrastructure you're building will get thrown away. It's modernizing the electricity grid to help put downward pressure on power prices. We'll see if that happens. Powering the regions, reducing transport emissions. Oh, they're electrifying. They're switching to a variable energy generation, which can't meet our base load requirements, which needs significant infrastructure just to come close, not even come close, to pretend that they can mitigate some of the variable issues with this generative capacity as opposed to fossil fuels. And then they're going to electrify the grid. And then they want to push us to have Australian made. Well, there's only one way to learn. But you know what this is going to mean? Power's going to get more expensive for all of us. And you may think, okay, Florian, I don't care. I've got solar panels at home. It's fine. Yeah, okay. You'll be fine with your power bill, but all your cost of living will shoot up. Everything will get more expensive. Everything will get more expensive. Just wait and see. This isn't cheaper. If it was cheaper, you wouldn't need this much government intervention. That's not how reality works. So 500 million to, yeah, anyway. Community batteries and solar banks. Community batteries for household solar programs will assist 100,000 households to reduce their power bills. Hey, I mean, they're giving childcare subsidies to families earning $500,000 a year. Why not give everyone solar batteries? And what about in 20 years' time? How are we going to dispose of all of these things? You know, what's going to happen to it all? Who's going to pay for it? What about the fire risk? Skilling the clean energy workforce. Skill demands in the clean energy sector by committing $100 million to the National Energy Apprenticeship and New Energy Skills Program. Help apprentices acquire necessary skills. Yeah, well, you're going to have to. Acting on climate change. Safeguarding our future from the effects of climate change. Transparent and accountable climate action. Government will enshrine in law our emissions reduction target of 43% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. This will mean cost of living will increase and it will make no impact on global carbon dioxide emissions at all. It will be insignificant, completely insignificant. We are going to reduce the quality of life, opportunities for future generations, and we're going to put more and more debt onto our children and children's children and make absolutely no difference. Here's a quote from Finkel regarding CO2. If the world were to reduce its carbon emissions by 1.3%, what impact would that make on changing climate of the world? And his response was the impact would be virtually nothing. Then he goes on to say that, well, we need to essentially virtue signal our way. You know, we've got a responsibility. I would argue we don't. We don't have a responsibility. We don't need to virtue signal. We don't need to take on the burden of the world. We're a colony on the edge of the world. We need to take care of Australians. We need to have cheap power. That's the most important thing we can have. Cheap electricity. That drives your economy. This isn't going to work. Investing in the future and leveraging First Nation expertise. The government will provide $105 million to support First Nations people to respond to climate change in their communities. Clean Energy Strategy and Community Microgrids program will enable First Nation communities to influence and access the benefits of Australia's renewable energy transformation. Okay. I mean, in remote parts of Australia, these renewable energy generation might make sense, but not in massive cities. Government will invest $7.1 million to begin reducing its own emissions to net zero by 2030. A further $39.1 million will improve the Australian Public Services climate expertise, including by rebuilding Treasury's climate modelling capability. Why does Treasury need it? Don't we have CSIRO? Oh, well. Anyway, that's just going to cost us, well, a huge amount of taxes. And it's going to impact everything. Every government service we have is going to cost more by 2030, simply because of this. So protecting the environment, safeguarding our wildlife, lands and oceans, managing our land and water. The government is stepping in to arrest environmental decline and preserve a healthy environment for future generations, making $1.8 billion investment in strong action to protect, restore and manage the natural environment. An initial investment of $91.1 million over 6 years. Will clean up and restore urban waterways. It's not really that much. Indigenous protected areas will be maintained and expanded. Protecting the Great Barrier Reef, which is actually improving. They're just going to chuck more money at it. I mean, this is all a business. All of this stuff, it's a business. They're organizations, people, groups, public servants. They're living off the taxpayer teat. So they need to, well, they've got a imperative to maximize the revenue and money that can go towards their causes. So you can't really blame them. Building disaster resilience and preparedness. Supporting communities to bounce back from disasters and preparing for the future. More support for relief and recovery. Okay. Disaster readiness. $200 million per year to prevent and resilience initiatives. Is that going to include, what about building dams and infrastructure to mitigate some of this rainfall? Let's see if they actually do something like that, something serious. We'll see. I mean, this is temporary, short-term emergency gaps. What about long-term infrastructure to address this? And some of these people are building on, well, how many of these areas that are flood-prone are going to be built with these new affordable houses? Just saying. Wait till it happens. So, A future made in Australia. Investing in priority industries to grow our industrial base, diversify our economy and boost and support regional development. A national reconstruction fund. Provide $15 billion of capital to transform and strengthen priority industries. What are they looking at? Resource, expand our mining science, agricultural, forestry and fisheries, medical, renewable, transport, well, let's see it actually happen, honestly. I would argue everyone is a globalist at the checkout. Okay? That's the reality of it. Revitalising Australia's industries, grants of $113.6 million for manufacturing upgrades to boost our competitiveness. I just hope this doesn't lead to tariffs, okay? Because tariffs are simply taxes that every consumer will pay. There's a reason why we import things from overseas, because they've got economies of scale. They can produce things substantially cheaper than you can here. You know, there's niche technologies that Australia has a competitive advantage in, but we've got a lot of natural resources. Okay, we can dig it up a lot cheaper than other parts in the world. There's security. We've got infrastructure to ship it quite efficiently. We're not going to compete with massive Chinese manufacturing. And you've got to understand, if you want to build real manufacturing here, there's an environmental issue with it. And you need to have real power, reliable power, not variable. These things don't add up. Then you've got all the labor changes they're putting in place further on. That's going to impact it as well. So we'll wait and see. Investing in infrastructure, $500 million. Oh, the Liberal state gets nothing. Oh, well, the South Australia gets screwed as well. They're investing in infrastructure. We'll look at that. WA roads, the NBN and mobile connectivity, 1.5 million premises with improved internet speeds. Fighting scams. Scams are costing Australia over $2 billion a year. The government is making an initial investment of $12.6 over 4 years to combat scams and online frauds. This includes establishing a national anti-scam centre and more funding for identity recovery services to support victims of identity theft to recover stolen credentials. It's something that's needed. Supporting small businesses. Wow, finally we got to small businesses. So, small businesses and governments working together. Small businesses employ more than 5 million Australians and are the backbone of many communities. Difficult business conditions, together with the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 and extreme weather events, have required small businesses to be exceptionally adaptable and resilient. That's why the government is committed to delivering on its better deal for small businesses, including strengthening unfair contract term protections, collaborating with the small business community to address opportunities and challenges through September's Job and Skill Summit. This is bullshit. This is just bullshit. Whoop-de-doo. Okay? Investing in the energy efficiency of small and medium-sized businesses. The government is responding to rising energy costs by committing $62.6 million to support small and medium businesses and improving their energy efficiency and reducing energy use. These grants will empower small and medium businesses to invest in cost savings. See, here's the thing. Rather than putting all this money in solar power and battery banks for houses, it should be done at business premises where the power will actually be used while you're generating it. Maybe we should do that. All these homes that are sitting in the suburbs that are empty, empty all around me. So workplace relations support for small business, okay? They're making more rules, so they're going to support you in that. That's them. They're making it tougher for you, so they're going to make it easier for you to deal with their bullshit, okay? Some more supporting small business well-being. $15.1 million to extend the tailored small business mental health and financial counselling program. What the hell is that? New access for small business owners and small business debt helpline. I'd bet a carton that most of the debt that small businesses face is to the tax department. So they destroy your business to hoover taxes out of it so they can pay for debt helplines for you. That's it. This is Labor's small business budget. Okay, this is why when you become a business owner, it hardens people. Okay, this is why you grow out of voting Labor once you start to take on responsibilities. where you're running a business, where it's your own money on the line. I remember I got in an argument with a lecturer who was, what was she claiming? That she's an employer, and I go, well, no, you're not. You're just working for a big university. You're not actually employing any of your tutors. It's not your money that's paying people. It's not your mortgage won't get paid because you have to pay these people first. Didn't go over too well. But it's reality. I guess people don't like that, So a better future for our regions, driving regional growth, $7.4 billion to support regional development, fair and transparent investment in community, we'll have to see. Diversify Townsville economy. The government will invest $22 million in the Lansdowne Advanced Manufacturing Precinct. Okay. Backing Australian agriculture, increase the safeguards to farm output. Haven't they got a methane tax that they're putting on cattle? Is that anywhere here? $1.2 billion to help Australian farmers realise their goals of increasing annual output by $100 billion by 2030. In face of the growing risk posed by pests and disease, or foot and mouth, the government is investing $134.1 million to bolster Australia's biosecurity. Includes $46.7 million to enable contact tracing of livestock from paddock to plate. More to take the dogs. $1.2 billion in water infrastructure. $1 billion available for future projects that increases Australia's water security, reliability, and sustainability. Good. Let's hope that's some real dams. What else? Responsible budget repair for what's important. So structural pressures on the budget, growth in spending on essential services, and the higher costs of debt are placing long-term budget pressures. Here's the average annual growth in major payments. There's interest, NDI. Look at NDIS. At what the hell? Annual growth in NDIS is 14%. Yeah, that's not sustainable. Okay? That has to change, everyone. That is not sustainable. That is insane. And this is coming from a father of a son who receives NDIS support. That's insane. Okay? Wow. Interest. Look at interest. Aged care, defence, medical, yeah. The pension's right up there too. And here is revisions to major payments since pre-election estimates. Have a look here. I mean, there's our interest. Look at that. Boom. Look at that big chunk. How many billions of dollars we'll be spending on interest? And NDIS. Look at NDIS there. Look at that. Look at that. Big chunk there. NDIS. They have to do something about that. That's going crazy, guys. That is literally going crazy. So, managing the budget responsibly, delivering restraints. I'm just going to go through this, skim through this a bit quicker because I'm getting real tired. Strengthening Medicare, reducing pressure on public hospitals. The government will provide $235 million over 4 years to commence a rollout of urgent care clinics. Strengthening Medicare funds. I mean, yeah, okay. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the health system, guys, and it's really a state issue. So we'll see how it all goes. Securing the NDIS to restore our disability safety net. Total funding to NDIS will reach $166.6 billion over 4 years, an increase of $8.8 billion. This will ensure funding for expected growth in participants' plans. The NDIS review will put people with disability back at the center of the scheme. This will restore trust and confidence and pride in the NDIS among people with disability, their families, carers, and the broader Australian community. I mean, I've heard stories from the NDIS where it's just a complete and utter rort. Like, for someone to get access to the problem is when you become an adult, and then if your child or you're not capable, they appoint someone to take care of you, and they make all these decisions on your behalf, and they can just piss through so much money. It's just ludicrous. So, as an immediate action, the government will invest $158.2 million for an additional $380. This is job creation, isn't it? This is just job creation. Promoting a more inclusive Australia. $10.3 million to expand the Sports for All program. So 10.3 million on what will actually help people, getting them involved in sport, getting disabled people active and out there and doing sport. I mean, everyone should be doing sport. 150, 15.8 times that on bureaucrats. I think I know where the cost is going, lads. I think I figured it out. I wonder where. This is the problem with so many of these schemes. Surely with modern technology, you don't need that many people to do this shit, to automate it. Anyway. Better aged care, more and better care, skilled and valued workforce, protecting Australians in aged care. Yep, they're throwing money at it. I mean, aged care is just going to grow. This is why they're pushing for skilled migration, to get more younger people over here, to ensure we keep the money flowing in to keep aged care going. We're going to run out of people. Supporting our veterans. Australians owe a debt of gratitude to our veterans. With rising cost of living, the government will provide a $1,000 increase to the annual rate of the total and permanent incapacitated payment from January 2023. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of issues with regards to, PTSD with veterans and mental health problems there. A better future for First Nation people. Closing the gap. I've been hearing about this since back when I was at university, talking to architects who would come and give presentations where they would go and work in the remote communities and look at providing housing for some of these communities. And the problem would be that they'd get housing that was designed for inner city with inner city appliances and inner city water, and then put it out in the middle of nowhere, and it would just all fail. It wouldn't last. There'd be no way to maintain it, and it's just not appropriate for the location. And we're still talking about it. We're still looking at closing the gap. And you'll get people complaining about how much money is spent on, Indigenous Australians. But you've got to realise how much, like the NDIS, and the sports, how much is going to bloody bureaucrats and how much is actually going to people and communities. So, meeting our commitments to implement the Uluru Statement and closing the gap. Uluru Statement. I'm just too old. I've heard this shit too many times now, honestly, and nothing ever changes. Nothing ever changes. It's just all the same bullshit. And it's going to be the average punter who's screwed over. Maybe we just need to get more drop Atlas shrugged everywhere in the middle of Australia. Get a whole libertarian movement happening from the heart of Australia. That's what we need. But a lot of cultural issues with that. It'd be damn funny if you tried. I mean, there's parts of Australia where I couldn't even go to because I'm not the right race. So, yeah. That's not going to allow for business. That's not going to allow for tourism. Yeah, there's a whole industry there. Good luck to them. Ending violence against women. What about violence against men? Intimate partner violence is bilateral. That's well known, that's documented, but mainstream media doesn't seem to want to talk about that. I remember I did an interview with some lads trying to start a shelter for men to leave domestic violence with their kids. There's no way you can do it. If you're a bloke and in that situation, you cannot leave with your children. They'll take them off you and they'll, send you for a men's shelter because there's nowhere for a father to flee. Okay? Because it's bullshit, honestly. It's really one-sided, this entire industry. So, working to end violence in one generation. There needs to be a serious discussion about intimate partner violence and the different forms it takes. It can be manipulative. It doesn't always have to be physical. So I think there was an ad recently where it was a woman being... it was quite shocking, actually, to see an ad where the man was the victim. The Queensland government did it. And it wasn't physical. It was verbal. It was berating and humiliating in front of the children. So 1.7 billion to end gender-based violence. Is it just so long as it's both genders, but it's only women's safety, so it's not. End of sexual harassment at work. We're not in the fucking boomer world anymore. Don't people act like professionals at work? Come on. Re-engaging our neighbours. Strengthen Australia's partnership in our region. Play a stronger role with regional partners. Develop Pacific Climate Infrastructure Financing. Yep. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with all of that. Securing our borders. Yep. And rebuilding the integrity of the government. The Anti-Corruption Commission. A Royal Commission into robo-debt. Where's the Royal Commission into the lockdowns and COVID restrictions? How about that? An Anti-Corruption Commission. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm just too skeptical about all this shit. What else? Yep. And the appendices. Okay, so what's going to happen? Cash balance is going to go down. Boom, down, 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 down. GDP, as a percent of GDP, it'll be better until after the election, the next election. You've got, let's have a look here. What do we want to see? Debt will go to $1 trillion by 23-24. 40% of GDP. Our debt will be 40% of our GDP. Net debt will be 25. So what's the difference between net debt? Net debt is the sum of interest-bearing liabilities less the sum of selected financial assets. Okay, so we're 25% debt. It's going to peak at 28.5. So revenue as a percent of GDP, 26, 25, 25.7. Expenses are higher than revenue. Of course they are. What else? Let's keep going down. Here's the revenue and spend. What do we have? Fringe benefit tax, 3.4 billion. Individuals income tax. See, 286 billion. Look at how much of this here. They should reduce a big chunk of that. Superannuation tax, 12 billion. Tobacco excise tax, 12.4. Alcohol, 7.6. Other customs taxes, 8. Fuel. Look at all these ways they're taxing us, guys. All of these ways that we're getting taxed. Where government spending is directed. Public service, there's a saving. Defense, look at that. Nearly the same. Education. The public servants and defense is more than education. Health, social security and welfare, 228 billion. And there's other purposes, 130 billion. And other functions, $68 billion. I'm sure we could find a bit of fat in there. So, initiatives, plan for cheaper childcare. Whoa! Oh, boy. Fixing aged care. Oh, whoa. 4.6. 4.6. 2.5 for fixing aged care. 1.6 for government spending. Oh. Hey, you gotta make money to spend money, or spend money to make money, or something like that. What are we looking at here? So, where's the unemployment rate? 3.8%, 21, 22, 3.75%, and up to 4.5%. Net overseas migration from 150,000 to 235,000. And this is coming before we get the kick up in housing. So, guys, and they're the image credits. Let's have a talk about this. What do you reckon? Are you a fan of this budget? Do you think it's a good move? Will it lead Australia in the right direction? Or is it more of the same, with a sprinkling of political correct wokeness? Maybe, am I just getting too old and cynical? I mean, hey, guys, all of you in the construction sector, this is awesome for us. Look at all this work that's going to pump out there. Isn't it fantastic? Well, I don't know if it'll make housing more affordable. Well, we're going to need the money. Those of us working in the construction sector, we're going to need the money to pay for our power bills, our cost of living increases, all of these other expenses. So, we'll have to see. I mean, personally, I would have hoped for a government that reduces the burden and intrusion into our lives, but that's not what Australians voted for. Not by any measure. So we'll have to see how it goes. Let us know your opinions in the comments below, and thank you for watching. And let me know if you made it through the whole video. Take care. Check out my other channels, HeiseBim and HeiseSays International, for other content I discuss. And if you're a fan and want to support us, you can financially on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links, buying our pocket squares, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode. I'm tired after that one. Oh boy. Oh, it's going to be an interesting few years. What do you think?